Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we are playing as Isaac. And as you can see, sometimes this is going to happen as Isaac. You're going to enter your first item room and you're gonna reroll Nod Leaf into Mom's Knife, and this is it. For the first 6 floors, we don't have to worry about our damage anymore. So this is great when this happens, but what kind of led me to the decision of rerolling Nod Leaf? Maybe to some of you, Nod Leaf is a good item, and I certainly would make a few arguments as to why Nod Leaf is a great item to have, because of course you can escape a lot of damage and it makes some enemies really trivial to kind of fight against. Especially, I mean, you have to have an orbital if you want to kind of deal with enemies running at you if you have Nod Leaf, to kind of kill them efficiently. Or have enemies that kind of, like Mom, you know, when she stomps her food. That's the prime example of why I think you could use Nod Leaf to kind of get that going. But at the same time, you know, it was my first item room, or my first room next to my spawn room, and if I rolled Nod Leaf, that means that there's a good chance that I'll get another charge, or so that means 6 charges, so at least 6 small rooms, or maybe a big one in between, to kind of get to my boss room, so then I can roll my boss item again. So my decision was, is 2 charges kind of more valid than just getting Nod Leaf, which might not even be usable in my situation if I don't get any orbitals? And I felt the answer to that was yes, and I just decided to reroll it, and as you can see, what ended up happening is we did actually get 6 more charges, which means we have another charge for the boss, so we didn't even end up missing on anything. And like I said, you know, I feel that Nod Leaf is, well, it's an okay item, especially in normal game where you may be going for certain objectives and you don't want to get hit when you're playing as very hard characters. In daily runs it's just not that useful, especially if you don't have any ways of dealing damage with it. And for that reason, like I said, I decided to roll it, and what ended up happening is I get Nod's Knife, and at this point it means that I don't have to worry about my damage for the next 6 floors, and I can just deal with enemies directly with not too much of a hassle. So that's great, you know, that we were able to get into that situation. But certainly, you know, that brings a lot of advantages besides just us being able to deal a ton of damage. Now, the first thing is because we are strong enough, we can kind of afford not to take this devil deal if there are no super good items, because then we can kill the angel statues and that will get us a lot of points. Thankfully there was no devil deal here to take, so that makes my decision kind of easy, and at the same time we did get the orbital which I was talking about. And even though we don't have Nod Leaf, of course, having an orbital here is a good thing, because we can kill Mom faster, and of course we have some possibilities of protecting ourselves or shielding ourselves from some damage that some enemies can do with us when they actually shoot at us. Here we have kind of a deliberate situation of what is going on. I did get the Joker card, so I use it, and because it did have Spirit of the Night, and I think Flight is just one of those things that you really want to have on a run, I decided to take it, and I ended up here rerolling the item to get Guppy's Paw, and that just means that I'm at 1 red heart. And I think I mentioned this before, but if I didn't, being at 1 or less red hearts is very important, because that allows you to enter boss trap rooms. And at this point, like I said, we are strong enough for the next 6 floors that we don't even have to worry about our damage, which incidentally means that we don't have to worry about our health either, because we are strong enough that we are able to deal with enemies without getting hit a lot. So what was my strategy at this point? Because like I said, we did have enough damage to kind of deal with enemies, and at this point we have Flight, which gives us a lot of defensive maneuvers, and of course also a lot of possibility to get more coins or consumables, and of course just easier way to navigate through the floors. What I'll focus on mainly with my D6 from this point on is actually rerolling shop items, because at this point, like I said, it's not really about getting the strongest, as strong as we can. It's really about getting items that will boost our consumable points. And at this point, you know, the best haul would be definitely blank card, because we have a Jera rune, and a Jera rune, of course, with blank card means we can kind of do a lot of crazy combinations to make certain things happen. And you can see it here that I use Diplopia to kind of set up more items, and then I reroll 3 items at the same time, and with that I hope that that's gonna kind of help me get some of those items that I really need. Or maybe not even, like I said, blank art would be the best thing that we could get, but there are a few other items that we kind of hope for, and that's like Mom's Key, or maybe even the Sackboy is also a great item, especially with the D6, because Sackboy does produce a lot of charges, which means that we can use those charges on hopefully rerolling items to hopefully get that blank card that we so desperately need. Because, you know, with blank card and Jera, it's definitely the easiest way to kind of generate a lot of consumables. We did get a Mom's Key here, which will definitely help our score in the end to some extent, because every golden chest will have more keys and consumables in general, which we can use to kind of boost our score even further. And you can see just at this point, even though I have no damage ups, I'm still able to kind of deal with enemies very successfully. And here I'm lamenting on should I take one of these items, or maybe I shouldn't, should I reroll both of them. But I think in the end, because of our health situation, I decided to take Maw of the Void. And not only that, having Maw of the Void also means that we have another way of dealing damage besides our knife. And for some enemies, of course, it's easier to just shoot them with a knife, but it's also nice that we have that 360 degrees around us, with which we can actually use to also hit our enemies. So at this point, you know, this run is looking pretty strong, but sadly, like usual, I'm not playing the best and I'm getting hit a lot. Thankfully, what ends up happening here, we get an item room, or the room which has 5 battery charges, and we also have 1 battery charge in the shop, so that means that I can kind of keep re-rolling those items and I take full advantage of it to the best of my possibilities. Whenever I see a spacebar item, I pick it up so it doesn't appear again, because that's something that can happen in the shop. But sadly, even though I rerolled 6 times for 2 items, I didn't get either Sackboy or the blank heart, which were obviously the things I was hoping for. And there were a few other things that maybe I could have used to get an advantage, in the sense that I could use it to break the game, or maybe generate a lot of consumables, but I don't think I ever found it. But what I end up doing here is just picking up Humbling Bundle, because in the end I think that from the pool of items that we actually got, that is the best choice. And maybe I could have gone back and rerolled one more time if I actually took the time to use the D6, but what I ended up doing then instead is using my D6 in boss rush to reroll some of the items that are on the pedestals. And in this case I decided just to pick one item up and set it back down again, and then I actually use my D6 every 3 waves, which means that I can kind of pick and choose until I get to a very strong item. And this is one of those. I get Unicorn Stomp, which means I can use it once per wave to kind of deal damage with both my knife, my cube of meat, and also the knife I'm dragging alongside me, because I have the mount transformation. So that gives me a lot of offensive potential, and ironically enough, this would be a great run if we actually had Gnawed Leaf. But of course, because we did have Mom's Knife, I think it's a better decision overall. But it's just ironic how I mentioned that Gnawed Leaf is not very good, and this is one of those situations where it actually would turn out to be very useful for us. But, you know, it is what it is. I would still rather have Mom's Knife 9 times out of 10 here to kind of deal with things, unless I'm playing, you know, obviously for quests or achievements, and I would rather have Gnawed Leaf to kind of not get hit. But at this point, I really can't complain too much. There are a few rooms, like I said, I played pretty sloppily, and that's because there were a few rooms that kind of messed me over. I never like playing with items that only allow you to shoot enemies right in front of you, like Mom's Knife or Brimstone or Technology, because I think that limits your range of dodging very considerably, and I guess I'm just not used to it. I really like being able to angle my shots in a way to kind of hit enemies, even though I'm not directly in front of them. So what ends up happening in that situation is I kind of... but because I have to shoot straight, I overestimate my damage I have to do, and what ends up happening, I try to kill an enemy in 1 or 2 hits maybe, and then they end up shooting before I actually finish them, and things end up kind of awkward. But you can see now, because we didn't get any damage ups here, except 1 I think, our damage is not that great at this point. It's still very respectable in the sense that we can still deal with enemies rather fast, especially if we kind of aim our knife in a way to maximize the amount of time it stays on the target. Mom's Knife deals the most damage if you're able to kind of aim it in a sense, because it has an arc, like it goes forward and then it slowly deaccelerates back, and when it deaccelerates, then that's those few seconds of time deal the most damage or have the most sticks on the enemy. And if you kind of get the arc on where it's the furthest away from you, then that's when you're going to deal a lot of damage, and that's really your opportunities to kind of get a lot of points. Not a lot of points, but a lot of ticks of damage, which will then one-shot or two-shot enemies, most enemies at least, when you're fighting them in just generally. And if you kind of do it well enough, you can actually also one or two-shot certain bosses, or most bosses I would say, without having any damage ups, and that just goes to show just how strong the Mom's Knife really is and how useful it can be. But sadly, because it's a really one-dimensional item in the sense that there's not really much of strategy behind it, but besides the fact that you kind of need to get your timing down to maximize the amount of time it stays on your enemy. It's really not that kind of fun to play, and well, it's nice when it comes in a run, like one in every few runs, but if you see it every run, I think it would get really boring really fast, and especially because it doesn't have any super fun synergies that I can think of at this point. So what ended up happening is the shop on Hush, I rerolled it once more, and so that means I got to see 4 more items, and sadly it's no Sackboy or blank card, and I think we were kind of really maximizing our chances to get one of those items at that point. I think that our chances for getting those items was pretty high at that point, because like I said, I think we saw about more than 20 items from the shop pool. So I'm kind of upset that we didn't get it. It also means that we used missed some other ways which we could have done it. But this was like a gambit I made in hoping that I would get one of those 2 items, which will help boost my score considerably. But what ended up happening, of course, that gambit, even though it was, I think, very likely for us to get it, just didn't work out this time. But still, because this run was good and we did manage to kind of beat both Boss Rush and Hush, we did manage to still rank pretty well. And even on these runs, I think you can expect a 40,000 point run to do decently. I think if you're looking really into the high scores, I think you need about 47,000, and at that point you can really say that you're one of the best, at least for this daily. With that said, guys, I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.